Welcome back, everybody, to Rob's Metalworks. Yes, it is 2015, and we are already starting out the year very heavy and brutal, especially in support of local and regional music like we have been doing for the last 18 years. And it brings me great pleasure this evening to welcome a musician from right here in San Antonio, somebody that a lot of you people out there in the local scene know about, especially those of you who dig on death metal. Brings me great pleasure to welcome a friend of mine, Mr. Gene Olivarri of the band Dirigiri. How are you doing, Gene?
Doing good. Hi, San Antonio.
Gene, I think your appearance on Rob's Metalworks is long overdue, but I'm very happy to have you here. I ran into you, a few months ago, and we talked about doing this because, like I just shared with the people out there, you've definitely put in your dues, man, in your time, being part of the local scene and delivering your own blend of brutality with Dirigiri, and it's something that I've seen you continue to work on, man. So welcome again, and I'm very happy to hear you. Let's get started talking about Dirigiri. Let's talk about the origins of Dirigiri first, because this, if I'm not mistaken, you were in a band before Dirigiri, but Dirigiri is really kind of your own thing, right?
Yes, that's true. I was part of a band from Mexico called Argentum. Many people in the underground black metal scene may know who they are because they're straight out of Monterrey, Mexico. I started Dirigiri in about 2004. I started Dirigiri with ex-drummer Omar Guerra. I started the band, and we started looking for musicians and everything, and making our rounds to see who would be the right fit for our blend of death thrash that we were trying to accomplish and trying to record a solid album on.
Was the death thrash, genre of metal something that, of course, that you've always been a fan of? So you said, this is what we're going to do.
Exactly, because we were big fans of the late 80s hardcore punk scene, so we have a little bit of that in there. And kind of, you're talking about 1988, 89, early 90s, where they started to mix the death metal and the thrash metal together. And we really wanted to try to do that style, but in our own way. Right. To have a little Texas flair to it.
One thing I have to ask you about, and my guys and I remember, we've had several conversations about the name Dirigiri. Some people were saying, no, it's Dirigiri. And I was like, no, it's Dirigiri. I was like, we don't really know how to say the name correctly. We cleared it up tonight before we started shooting here. It is Dirigiri. Talk a little bit about that name. What is Dirigiri? Or where did you get that name from?
Well, actually, we were going to call the name Dirge. We were going to call the band Dirge. And we actually looked up in an encyclopedia, and right under it there was a name that said Dirigiri, but it was spelled D-I-G-E-R-I, or with a Y at the end. So we put our heads together and we just spelled it D-I-R-I-G-I-R-I. And the meaning of the name, it's a Latin name, and the term that it means for is hymns of death. Wow. That's what the name means, is a hymn of death. The last song that you hear, that when they're lowering your body, the last song you'll ever hear, that's what the name Dirigiri means.
Wow. Thank you for sharing that. I would have never known that. I'm sure a lot of people out there didn't know that either. So you've been in the scene for a long time. When did you start actually kind of thinking about being an active part of the metal scene? It's hard to sit here and kind of think that far back, because I've known you for so long, except I never really kind of knew your beginnings. You were telling me earlier, originally you're from the south side of San Antonio, and I remember it during the beginnings of Rob's Metalworks, in the mid-90s. A lot of our viewers were from that area, and that's why I asked you what high school you came from, because there was a lot of fans from South San High School, Southwest, and of course BRAC. So talk a little bit about kind of how you got into metal too, because I think that's important too.
I started getting into metal from when I can remember. I remember being around everybody and hearing bands like Grim Reaper, Saxon, bands like Possess, Venom, and all the stuff that in my area, all the guys that they were into a lot of heavy underground bands. And me myself personally, one of my favorite bands of all time is the band UFO. A lot of people, I've done other interviews and they find that funny that that's my favorite band.
Yeah.
And we just pretty much, I started playing guitar at 7 years old. I got a guitar for Christmas in 1989. I was 7 years old. Now I'm revealing my age, how old I am. But the reason why I wanted to play guitar was because a cousin of mine showed me Venom's Welcome to Hell. And I told my cousin, who's much older than me, he was actually from Poteet, Texas. And I told him, you know what, I want to play guitar like that one day.
Wow.
And that's how my musical journey started off. I mean, I feel very blessed to have even talked to Mantis from Venom to actually tell him that how, you know, a 7-year-old child from Texas was hearing him on that album. And he was very humbled in hearing that and everything.
Wow. Well, I think you were doing proud, especially with your latest release, people out there. This is the new one from Dirigiri. It's been out for about a year now, since last fall. Let's talk a little bit about this release, because we know that you're gearing up to kind of release some new brutality. But I was turned on to this CD earlier this fall, and man, when I actually put it on the CD player, I was really kind of blown away. So talk about these tracks on here. There's 6 songs, and what I like to call like an extended EP. Talk a little bit about this music.
The music on the CD is, many people have asked me if it's a concept, and I'm here today to say that yes, it is a concept. The Metalhead on the album, the reason why the hand is grabbing him is because the Metalhead here is a killer. And these songs in the back tell you a story and what's going through his head and everything. And they've asked me to make a short film about it, even write a comic book, a horror comic book about it, and even a regular book about it, of the idea. Because the idea behind it is that the Metalhead, he goes into these record stores and he's a vinyl collector. He only likes to get vinyls.
Right.
So he goes and he meets girls. So once he gets them into where he wants them, he takes out a vinyl record that he's been listening to and he takes out the lyric sheets.
Right.
So whatever songs he's listening to, he thinks that the band is telling him what to do and how to kill the person.
I'm gonna boil you in blood.
And another thing that I've said before, I can't release any kind of statements or anything because I don't want to get sued over it, but these songs have a lot to do with real life murders that have happened in Texas.
Wow.
And
does that kind of stuff I mean, obviously you're writing about this stuff, you're thinking about this stuff. Do those kind of things kind of, you know, make you, intrigue you, kind of make you think about the duality of man or humanity, you know, and the evil side of man, I guess?
Yes. Like the track Boiled in Blood, I had read a news story about a girl who her boyfriend was a member of a skinhead gang, and they wanted to kill the guy that night. So he told his girlfriend, I want you to take me to the store to buy some more beer to take back to the party.
Right.
And the girl said, okay, well, I'll take you. Well, they thought that the guy was driving, and they shot the girl. So the boyfriend was left. The guy got dropped off before he went to the store because she wanted to go home. So they thought she was driving and she got shot. So when he went back to the house, on the coffee table, her body was there lying dead. So he had to help his own skinhead gang cut up her body and they put it in an iron drum. So when the detectives found her in a field, they opened it up, and the detective said that she was out in the sun in the iron drum. Mm-hmm. And the detective said it looked like she was boiled in blood.
Wow.
And that's what the song is about.
What a trip. What a trip. Well, these are killer songs on the CD. One of the things, too, that I kind of noticed off the bat is that, I really liked the way that it sounded, too. I mean, the production on it is pretty damn cool. I mean, it's still very brutal and stripped down, but yet it sounds good. Can you talk a little bit about, like, who produced it or where did you do the recording at?
We did the recording at DNR Studios by the guy that recorded it was the guitarist from... he played in Demolition Hammer and Solstice.
Okay.
Many people might remember them. They were a legendary death thrash band from Florida. And it was recorded by Dennis Munoz from the band Solstice.
Here in San Antonio?
Here in San Antonio.
Sweet, sweet. So if fans want to get a hold of this CD, where can they go and get it?
They can get it through Abyss Records. They can get it, there's so many Costa Rican labels selling it. You just have to look online and type it in. But mainly if you want to get it in the States, it's being distributed by Abyss Records.
Sweet. So, I mean, that's great, too. I'm glad you kind of talk a little bit about the back-end stuff, Gene, because, I have worked with so many local bands, and many bands, I think, nowadays are kind of, DIY, doing it yourself and getting the name out there and getting your product out into people's hands. So, is that something that's always kind of at the forefront for you? I know you talked about earlier tonight off camera that, that you're doing press and pub with magazines and webzines, in Europe and even, in other parts of the U.S. So talk a little bit about that for some of the younger musicians out there who really kind of also kind of want to tap into the same thing.
Well, the distribution I did everything the old school way. Basically saying that is what bands did in the 80s, how they pretty much tape traded with record labels or trying to get into magazines and stuff like that. And I took that approach and I got major results. And people, record labels, they wanted to buy the CD and sell it and stuff, and I got distribution deals. But the thing is that the main thing for young musicians, don't put all your apples in a basket locally. You have to venture out, because you're not gonna get new ears by playing in front of the same people every weekend.
Right.
You're not gonna be known, and you have to put this stuff. It takes money, so you gotta, regardless of what it is, flipping burgers or cutting the grass, right, save it, believe in yourself, put into your product and put into yourself, right, and really push it as far as you can. Thank
you for saying that, Gene. I've kind of felt the same way for a long, long time. And let me take one little step back. I was kind of remiss as we talked about the cover work here. I had some people when I announced this interview, people were saying, "Oh man, I really like that cover work. It's kind of old school. Kind of reminds me of LP work." Talk a little bit about who did the cover work there.
The guy that did the cover work was John Ferrugia. He's the drummer for Loki and then the drummer for the Ruined Few. Mm-hmm. And me and him had gone over this idea for a while, and I wanted to be very original into something to where I wanted to think outside of the box. Because nowadays, the way we see this kind of music, you get an album and you expect it to be, okay, well, they're going to have something gross, they're going to have a demon, right, they're going to have something satanic, they're going to have... And for me, in my opinion, it's been overdone. We're not in the 80s anymore.
Right.
And that was the gimmick of the underground back then. And I wanted to showcase the band very differently into what was going on at the time. Even though we played death thrash, when people were getting the album, it gave them a 360 spin, because they were expecting a goat to be dressed like a monk with a Bible, or killing something,
Right.
and you know, I didn't want to be a follower. I wanted to be different.
Right.
That's really what I wanted. And I told John, you know, it has to be something from the mind, because everybody that's putting their hand into this album that is helping me make it, I really need everything on the album to be hand done.
Right.
Just like it was before, back in the days. And that's what made all the bands so great, because they had their own sound, their own way.
Well, much props to John Frugia. I think he did a hell of a job on this CD, and you know, I never knew he was such a talented artist either. So great job, John. Hopefully you'll do more cover work for bands in San Antonio. So last time I saw you, Gene, we ran across each other at Bonds 007. You were playing a gig there that night. How often do you play out now these days? Do you still kind of try to keep yourself busy? Kind of like you were talking about earlier, you know, there's smart ways to kind of market yourself. Sometimes I think there are bands that overplay, you know, the scene, especially here in San Antonio. What is kind of Dirigiri's approach to playing live?
We pretty much play in town, depending. We'll probably play here about maybe 2 to 4 times a year here. We'll play, but we mainly like to go outward,
Right.
to get to new people. We want new people to know of us and to talk about us, and not just in San Antonio. And that's another advice for musicians. Do not think, okay, well, I just have to play in the clubs in San Antonio and I'm going to explode. It doesn't happen like that. There's no rocket science to it. You have to get out to people.
Where have you been targeting, Gene? Like where's the death metal scene that you kind of said, hey, this is somewhere we should kind of try to tap into?
Right now, where the death metal is very big with everything that I've been doing, is pretty much in the Latino countries. Yeah. I mean, you're talking about Panama, Costa Rica. I mean, they're the diehards of it. Right. I mean, they've really held it like to their heart and stuff, you know. And I've been noticing that they're craving bands. Mm-hmm. A lot of bands, they want to hear American death metal. They want to hear it.
Okay, Gene, so as we were kind of hinting at earlier, you know, there's a lot of interest for brutal, heavy music kind of down in different parts of the country and also outside of the country. So I think one of those areas too is kind of in Latin America. We've seen a lot of interest of promoters who are really wanting to kind of bring all kinds of bands, death metal bands, thrash bands, down to places like, you know, Peru or Brazil, Panama, to play shows. And at least from where I sit, you know, I'm not a musician, I'm not in a band, but at least from where I sit, it kind of seems like these promoters are really kind of doing what they need to do as far as all the back end stuff, getting bands out there and kind of, you know, taking care of them on the back end financially too, to kind of make it happen for the fans down there. And is that something that you kind of would agree with, or do you kind of feel the same way?
Actually, no, because you got to be careful nowadays, because there's a lot of these 17, 18-year-old cats that think that they're real promoters and they don't have any money. And then they want to go get a bigger band, and of course they're going to say yes because they want to make money. They're on the road. They have to survive on the road. And then they get to the venue and there's like not enough people there. And they don't even have not enough money to pay the band.
Right.
And then you're like from America or from Texas going way over there, you know, just to get stuck there.
Right.
You know, and how are you going to get home?
Right.
You know, and it's hard. There's even been occurrences in the underground where there's people. Another thing you have to be careful with is they do a lot of fake magazines. And there's people behind it that they want you to send them your product, you know. And in the underground, we depend on our T-shirts, our CDs, whatever little trinkets to make the mighty dollar, $1, you know, because this music is not commercial. Right. It's not on TV, nothing. So we have to do what we have to do to get money to survive on the road and keep on going. And there's these magazines that are out. They're from different countries, and they'll even tell you, oh, we'll do a spread, we'll do everything, and you send it to them, and then you don't hear from them ever again.
Are they bootlegging that stuff?
I don't know what they're doing. I have no idea. I've already heard in Calcutta, India, that a guy contacted me that he had bought a bootleg of this CD.
Wow.
In Calcutta, India. And I got a email from a guy in Africa. I can't remember what town it was from, but he told me he bought a bootleg of the CD already. So
that's kind of like the day and age that we live in. You know, you're kind of damned if you do, and you're damned if you don't. Nonetheless, I mean, hey, it's going to happen. But at least people are jamming to your music, man, all over the world. Now, Gina, I kind of, want to turn the page a little bit with this interview. I've known you for a long time, man, and I know that, not only just as, someone who covers, heavy music, but also kind of someone that we've kind of befriended and have known each other on a personal level. I know that, that you've had your own kind of personal, tragedies and also triumphs in the last year, and I kind of feel that for many of us, those kinds of things really make us who we are. They make us stronger, and sometimes we're down in the dumps, but we always kind of find a way to come back. So this question kind of goes back to that. If you wouldn't mind sharing a little bit about maybe some of the things that you've had to overcome this year, and even with some of the tragedies and challenges that you face, you still manage to keep your passion alive. You still happen to keep Dirigiri alive. So if you can, for some of those people maybe who don't know you as well as I do, or maybe just know you on the surface, kind of share a little bit about that, because I think this is a great forum and an opportunity to kind of let people kind of into the mind and psyche of Gene, the man behind Dirigiri.
Oh, well, I mean, as a child at 8 years old, I got diabetes. Not because I was overweight or nothing. I was a very skinny child. I was always underweight. And I've had trial and tribulations with that. I had a rookie doctor that gave me a wrong diagnosis in my right foot. So they had to amputate my right foot, half of it. Right. So now I wear special shoes. I can't. The way the doctor told me that my Converse and my Nike days were over.
Right.
So I wear custom built shoes and everything. And I also, with my mother, had passed away last year due to the same sickness and stuff. But my mom always supported what I did, and she never took the heavy metal records away from me, because they were my comfort blanket, right. And I loved them so much. And even, I had heard stories when people found out that they had cut off half of my foot that I was done.
Honestly, Gene, I think I was one of those people. I thought, how can someone continue to do, heavy music, and really kind of put not only their body through the stress of playing heavy guitar like you do, I mean, because you're moving Mach 10 when you're playing, okay? You're not just up there, twiddling your guitar pick. I mean, you're really throwing down. And then also kind of because of the strain that it puts on your body also, and the stress of having to kind of, do gigs and deal with all the pub and the workings of a band. I mean, I didn't know if, how the band would kind of fit in with all that. I think a lot of people would just say, I'm done with that and let me focus just on me. But you didn't do that, man. So I think that's awesome.
Yeah, well, it's just that when I healed, it took me I had 2 major surgeries because I ended up getting what they call a MRSA infection. And they could have saved my foot, but like I tell you, the doctor gave the wrong diagnosis and gave me the wrong pills. So when I healed, I wasn't gonna let nothing stop me of what I wanted. I wasn't gonna sit down and get a violin and sit at the corner of my bed and play a sad song for myself for the rest of my life. I knew I had to get up, even though I had the diabetes and this wrong now. You know, I was only 28 years old when they cut half of the foot off. So I got up, I grabbed my guitar. I was actually going to rehearsals with my band in a wheelchair.
Wow.
My singer would pick me up, and he would go to my house, put my half stack in his car with my wheelchair, and we used to go to practice like that. And I mean, that should be inspiration for anyone that has their health, because I don't.
Right.
You know, and if I'm able to do it, you know, because you got guys that they make bands and they live in the same city or down a couple of streets from where they practice and they can't make it.
Right.
For me, when you want something and you want it bad enough, you're going to do it at any cost. And nobody's going to stand in your way.
I also know, you know, that you mentioned your mom a little while ago. Even before I think your mom passed away, you told me about how close you guys were. So I can just imagine that, you know, losing your mom was a big deal for you too.
Yes, because all I ever had was my mom. And well, when she left, she told me, you know, I want you to go back to touring and doing what you do, because that's who you are, you know, and be who you are. And she goes, you know, and maybe one day you'll go down as one of the great Texas guitar slingers. And she used to tell me that all the time. She goes, I just want you to keep moving forward and keep trucking forward, no matter what obstacles people put in front of you.
Right.
Keep going and always go through every wall with force. That was the advice that she always gave me in life. And also, it's a very special occasion because when I was a young teenager, I remember when your show was on Paragon Cable, on the cable access. And actually, me and my mom used to watch your show.
Wow.
And she would always tell me how she liked the way the music you played and all the different things, that she loved it so much. And we used to watch your show on Fridays, Saturdays, Sundays, even sometimes when it was on Mondays and different time slots, we would stay up and watch it.
I wonder what your mom would say if she knew you were on the show now.
I wonder too. She'd probably be like, oh, look, he made it.
Los dos gorditos.
Yeah.
What was your mom's name?
My mother's name was Olga Olivarri.
Sweet, man. Well, cool. I'm glad that we had a chance to do this, man. And honestly, you know, I wouldn't be here sitting with you and talking with you if I really didn't like the work that you did on the CD. So tonight, also, we got to hear a brand new song. You told us we're the first people to ever hear it. Bury Your Dead. So let's talk a little bit about what lies for the future of Dirigiri.
Right now, we're recording the new EP called Hacking It Up for Texas Barbecue. And pretty much we're going to record another 6 songs and let out the demo, another demo record again to get more response, and we're just going to keep on going.
When should that be out? When would you like for that EP to be out?
I'm looking towards hopefully after the summer, because the songs are written and everything, but it's just that we have a new drummer right now. His name is Andres, and he comes from Victoria, Texas. So he just recently got into the band, and I mean, the poor guy, he has to learn what was done on this album and then sit down and be split mind and have to put his own ingredient to these new songs that I wrote.
Right.
So he's got a very hard task to do for himself. So it's going to be a little while before we play live again, you know, just to make sure we got everything tweaked out and everything going good.
Gene, thanks, man. Thanks for coming over tonight and talking to us about your latest work and about you, man. You know, I learned a lot about you tonight. I think it's really cool and intriguing because I think one of the things that I most admire and respect about you, aside from the music, is your heart and your determination and your work that you've just put in into your passion and into the music scene, the heavy music scene here in San Antonio. So any last words for the people out there? Anything you want to share with people who are going to watch this interview around the world?
I want to share to everybody, please go out and purchase this album. You won't be disappointed. And keep your eyes and ears peeled for the new album coming out.
Cool. Thanks, Gene. Again, remember everybody, the band from San Antonio is called Dirigiri. Some of the best, most brutal death metal you will hear coming out of this town. You met the man, Gene Olivarri, of the band right here, only on Rob's Metalworks.